Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. It is cold here and it is dark outside. Just as the prophet foretold, a cold, dark winter. I'd like to talk with you a little bit today about shortages, but about how we deal with shortages. We've been talking and we've been suggesting to people to stock up. Stock up now while you still can, because shortages are going to get worse. That's what it looks like. That's what the supply chain seems to be showing. That's what all the store employees we talk to that have some inside knowledge, they're just saying it's getting worse. And that's what a lot of my videos are about. But today I'd like to talk to you about how do we deal with this psychologically and emotionally, spiritually. Because I don't know if a lot of you have had that experience in the last number of weeks. You went to the store, you've heard about shortages, but then you are trying to get a product, or you're trying to get something or a kind of something, and you suddenly run into this empty shelf. You just look at this empty shelf where there was food all year long and even all your life, and then you just see empty. Right? And it becomes even a little more scary when people are saying that there are no food shortages, that it's just a little blip. And yet that blip continues from week to week, right? And I'd suggest that it looks like things are going to get worse in the coming weeks. So how do we process this? How do we deal with this, right? I do a few videos each week that are not exactly shortages, because that's what I'm passionate about, and you guys all want the shortage updates, and you're going to keep getting them. Don't worry. I do 3 or 4 shortage-focused updates every week. But let's talk about how we deal with these things. So if you had the experience in the last number of weeks where you saw the empty shelf and you had that sense of fear or sense of confusion, and we know that as things get worse, not only are you going to experience that more often, but everyone around you is going to feel that more. And a lot of you kind of knew what you were expecting when you get to the store, but there's a lot of people out there that are still oblivious to the problem. And they're gonna be dealing with this even more so. I've had a lot of experience overseas dealing with people who have gone through traumatic events, traumatic national events, people who have gone through shortages and famines that we can't compare to, and we may never be able to compare to. Seeing them go through those things, and in part in a very, very small way, and I emphasize that, in a small way, that I experienced a little bit of what they experienced, or at least being around them as going to the store and seeing empty shelves. I've seen that before. During the winter, when the snow would block the main road and no supplies got in, you either had it in your pantry or you didn't, because when you get to the store, there's just nothing there. You had to wait until the road got cleared for trucks to come in. So how do you deal with that? You need to absolutely reset your expectations, right? And I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but when it hits the fan, when SHTF happens, we need to switch gears, right? We're used to operating at a certain level with certain rules, and we need to be able to change our minds to operate at a different level. Many of you have experienced this when you go visit family in another state, or when you get on an airplane and you go to stay at a motel or a hotel, or perhaps you've traveled overseas, and your mind kind of switches over into this new mode. You're used to having a certain process, a certain way of doing things, certain things that you do when you're at home, that when you're traveling, you don't do those things. You do different things, right? And you if you travel enough, you start to get a different set of expectations, a different set of things that you do, habits, routines, like when you're on the road, right? I traveled enough as a photographer for churches, doing church photography, that when I was on the road, I started to develop a very specific routine and habits of how I lay out my motel rooms and my, usually not hotel rooms, but I had a whole way I set up the whole room and everything that I do. So those type of things, we need to establish those type of things. And if you've practiced shutting off your power, if you've had power outages, if you've had other opportunities to kind of practice what that would look like, or even just not going shopping for a while, if you've kind of lived off your things. Some of you guys have homesteads and you're already kind of living the way that you plan to live when everything hits the fan, right? So, but it's important for us to realize that there are different rules and there is a different way of things, and we need to kind of adapt. If you try to hold on to your old routines and your old way of doing things and constantly mourning the loss of each of these things that you can't do the same way you do. If you have to spend a lot more time cleaning, a lot more time working on the garden, doing other things, right? That may mean that you can't do certain things that you're used to doing during your daily routines. And we can't mourn those things. What we need to do is we need to have a clean break. We need to almost say to ourselves, this is a new, we're switching into a completely different mode. And that's helpful. Even though we may still be living in the house, we need to say that to ourselves that this is a whole new mode, and we have to reset our expectations completely and not try holding on to those things. You need to go to the store, and instead of saying, this is my shopping list and this is what I need to do, you need to go to the store and just say, what can I get? Can I get anything? If I can, then I need to acquire those items, right? That's a different mode. That's like a totally different thought process. And we need to have that, because there's going to be people who get to the store and they're not going to be able to cope with that. Also, as other people are not able to cope with this, they're dealing with a lot of stress. There's going to be people, and you've probably, a lot of you experienced this at stores this last go around. People are not going to behave rationally or in the same way that they normally do. When 2 weeks before the event happened last time around with everything closing down, I went to the store and I bought up everything I needed before everyone went crazy. And I felt like that again today. When I was picking up fresh goods and stuff like that, I was thinking this might be the last time I go to the store for a while. Because when everything gets super crazy at the store, I don't want to go. Last time around, I didn't go to the store for 2 months because I didn't need to. And honestly, when I saw the pictures and I saw the news stories about people being lined up in front of the Walmarts and not being allowed to go in except so many people at a time, and they were only allowed to buy certain things, and certain parts of the store were roped off and blocked off, and I just said, I'm not dealing with that. I'm like, that's not going to be good for my psychology. That's not going to be good for my peace of mind, and I'm just not going to deal with it. And so I didn't go because I didn't need to. And that's part of the reason why stocking up is so important, is because it gives you choices. If you're a more nervous person by nature, like I am, I don't like dealing with uncomfortable situations. I don't like dealing with choices need to be made in a very rapid fashion, and I don't like dealing with new situations that I don't understand before I go into. So I just knew that it wouldn't be good for me. I knew it wouldn't be good for me to go into that situation, so I didn't. And we need to make those type of choices. If you don't need to go into situations, don't, unless you want to, right? And that's an interesting psychology to that, of balancing out your psychological health. Not saying I can handle everything, but being realistic about what you can handle and what you can't. Because if you're one of those people that just bottles things up and everyone says, what's wrong? How, what are you dealing with? And you're dealing with stuff internally and you keep telling everyone that you're fine and then you blow up, that's not healthy. And you need to get a handle on that. If you have loved ones that do that, you need to protect them from very stressful situations and make sure that they don't get into situations where they're going to go do something stupid, or they're possibly going to blow up on someone when tensions are very high. What choices do you need to make sure that you don't get into those situations? Because you only have so many hours in a day, you only have so much money, and you only have so much psychological health, so to speak. You need to spend it wisely. Your social capital, your personal, emotional health capital, you need to spend it wisely. And there's going to be a lot of things that need to get done. They need to get done around your house, homestead, relating with neighbors and everything like that. But you need to set realistic expectations and get used to saying no. Even to things that seem very important, okay? Because it's not just the things that need to get done. You need to stay sane. If you go crazy, if you have a psychological break, and I know a lot of you are there with me. We love Jesus, and we look to God to provide for us. But don't make that to seem like you are some kind of superhuman or super person. It is in our weakness that God provides the strength, right? But we still have that weakness. And we need to not be arrogant and pretend like we're invincible, or that we don't have problems, or that we don't have struggles. We need to have a humility about us that says, I'm sorry, I can't deal with more right now. I need some me time. If you're an introvert, I need me time. Or if you're an extrovert, maybe I need to have some time where I just spend decompressing with other people. I just need to go out, have a few friends over. We need to drink some coffee and just talk. Okay? Now, some of you who are very task-oriented are going to be like, nope, can't do that. The garden needs to get done. We need to work on winterizing the house. We need to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And you have your whole list, and you're not going to want to do anything for your psychological health because you're only focused on your physical health. 3 seconds, right? Your rule of threes. 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 seconds without hope. People, this last go around, lots of people committed suicide. Lots of people fell into serious, serious depression. And they didn't take care of their psychological health. Okay? Now, there's some medical things going on. I'm not a medical person, right? But what I'm saying is we had to deal with this overseas, dealing in conflict zones and everything like that. Soldiers have to deal with this too. You have to be realistic about where you are, and you need to communicate that with your team members or the people you're with, and they need to hear you. They need to hear you when you say, I'm sorry, I can't. And they say, yeah, you got plenty of time. You seem to be doing well still. And you say, no, listen to me. I need to step back. I need to decompress for a little bit, okay? That's not an excuse to be lazy, okay? But it means that sometimes you need to prioritize your spiritual, emotional, and mental health more than the physical things that are going around you, okay? And as a team member, when someone else says that or another family member says something like that, you need to hear them. And you need to make space for them. You need to have grace for them and understand, and you need to protect them. When someone asks for help, especially if there's someone who doesn't like to ask for help, you need to prevent, I don't want to say safe space, but you need to create a buffer, and you need to keep everyone else from making demands of that person. Men, if you have wives, hopefully you understand this already. Women, you're smarter than the rest of us, so you probably already got this. You're used to keeping your men from getting a little too worked up and such, right? But that's super, super important in a very stressful situation. It goes to 11, and you need to do those things, but all the more, okay? You need to have regular check-ins where you're being open and honest with each other about where you are psychologically, mentally, and stress level wise, okay? And when people say, I need a break, you need a break. If you're a believer, having spiritual time set aside as a priority. If you're not doing that already, and if you are doing that already, you need to prioritize that when things get bad too, okay? Because that's super, super important. Because if you're right up here and your emotions and your stress level is where it needs to be, you will think more clearly, you will be able to do the work that you need to do, you'll be able to stay focused, okay? That's what I have for you today. Overseas, I watched people break down, have just snapped. A lot of times that's because their teammates didn't listen to them, did not give them grace, and did not give them space to decompress. I was at a place several times on my overseas time, and one time I went to my boss. We were in a remote province, and I said, I need to leave. I need it. And he said, okay, go ahead, go back to the capital and decompress. And I did. And if I hadn't, it would not have been good for the team for me to have been there still, okay? I would have become useless and possibly a liability. And that's what we need to think about. We need to make sure that we don't lose people due to physical injury, psychological injury, or stress-related injuries, okay? And you got to watch your team dynamics, because there's going to be the hard chargers who are going to just run people over, and they don't need any recharge time. You got to keep a rein on them. If you're one of them, you need to keep a rein on yourself, and you need to hear people when they call for help, okay? That's what I have for you. Hopefully, things don't get bad, but I think that this next couple weeks is going to be very interesting. We're going to have a few more of these videos focusing on psychological issues and dealing with stress in disaster / SHTF situations. All right? God bless you, and have a great day.